Welcome to the Miller Report. I'm Suzanne Miller, CEO, Empire State Properties, and host of the Miller Report. I'm finally back to real estate, guys. We've had enough politicians. So now with the Miller Report as it was supposed to be, we've got the star of real estate today. She is a role model for anybody in real estate. She is the president and CEO of the Corcoran Group. In 1994, at just 23, she began her career as a real estate agent. In 1995, she created Corcoran Marketing Division, and in 2000, she became the CEO and president of the Corcoran Group. Under her leadership, Pam Liebman's revenues at Corcoran have grown to over $23 billion. Welcome, Pam Liebman, to the Miller Report.
Thanks. Suzanne, I have to thank you a lot for having me, and also for two things. One, you just made me 10 years younger because I started in 1984.
Oh, I was going to fact check that. Oh, don't. We're not going to change that.
So thank you for that. And our sales are about $24 billion. I wish our revenues were $24 billion. Wouldn't that be nice?
Sales are $24 billion, which is pretty amazing.
Thank you.
So before we start, because I think that our audience is very widespread, it's real estate, it's politics, it's New York, it's the Hamptons, it's Florida, it seems to be everywhere. But just for those people that are listening in real estate, just because you did start out as an agent, explain to us when you're hiring somebody, what makes a good agent versus a great agent? I think people want to know that.
That's a really good question. And I think one of the things that makes a great agent is they know how to listen. And they pay attention to you, but they also bring something to the party. A lot of people think that real estate is very easy, and it's just a numbers game, and you could see pretty pictures online. It's easy to buy a house or sell a house, but the reality is it's very emotional, and there's a lot that goes into a buying of an apartment, a selling of a house, or a renting. You know, we talk a lot about renting in New York City. That's a whole topic we probably have to get into. But a great agent listens to what their customer or their client wants and is able to provide value by bringing something to the table that wouldn't have been there. And look, there's people out there that work really cheap. And in real estate, I think you get what you pay for.
So what about technology? Because today it's kind of, I remember my late husband was a physician. He used to tell stories. People would come in, they would say, they've already checked on Google. They know what's wrong with them. And I'm finding that now with real estate, we're seeing the same thing. They got Zillow, they've got StreetEasy. So is that helping or hurting the industry, all of this accessible technology?
Yeah. I love that WebMD. I feel like I can be a doctor sometimes, but people will say to you, don't do that. Don't do that. Technology is a great tool, but to me, that's what it is. It's a tool. It doesn't replace us. And I'll often say that people would ask me back in the early days of real estate tech, Pam, is technology going to overtake the agent? Are people still going to use agents? And this is not the travel industry. And I would ask you this question. If you want to book a ticket, a very simple ticket to go to Florida, California, wherever you're going, you can go on any one of a number of websites. You could look for a pricing of a ticket. You could check the different airlines. You can go to another website. You could see which is the best seat. You can compare first class to coach. You could use your miles, not use your miles. It's very simple. If you want to plan a 2-week trip to a faraway place, it's not so easy to do it yourself. And you are not going to have the same experience as you would if you had a high-end travel agent help you. So when I book regular tickets, I do it myself. When I'm going for 2 weeks and I'm traveling to 5 different places in Italy, I'm using a really high-end travel agent. So for a real estate agent, tech is a tool. And the information that people see online is flat. And what I like to say is we bring that information to life, because when somebody writes a description, they all sort of look the same. Great apartment, beautiful condition, nice views. If you haven't been in it, you haven't seen it, you haven't really known why the one above sold for a little less or a little more, it's not good information. It actually can hurt you. So technology is great. It makes the agents' lives easier, which is hugely important. And it's great to keep agents on their toes, because you better know more than your customers.
Absolutely.
So I love the transparency. Love the transparency so the customers and clients can see the pricing. And I love the way a good agent can translate that information and really bring it to life to help you find the home that allows you to live who you are.
So just taking that one step further, I mean, years ago, I used to use brokers all the time for my stock portfolio. So you would go to Charles Schwab, you would go to all. And do you think there's going to be a niche in the real estate business for discount brokerage as the stock market has moved in that direction?
I think there are parts of the country, parts of the world where discount brokerage can be relatively effective. I don't ever think it's as effective as a full-service broker, but people would say, oh, of course she's going to say that. She's in the full-service business. But if you're selling in, I don't want to name a state, but if you're selling in a place that has lots of huge developments, and the development has 3 different model houses, and they're all the same, they were all built the same year, and somebody goes in and they just look at the same house 9 times, maybe it's a little bit easier. There's not that much you can offer. But in markets where they're complicated, where there's co-ops, where there's condos, where you're talking about lots and lots of money, I think it is a huge mistake to use a discount broker. So somebody sent me a cute video this morning, as a matter of fact, and it showed a guy saying, oh, I'm about to list my house. I'm going to use so-and-so, and he's charging me, 5%. And this other guy goes, well, I'll do it for 3. And he said, both sides, you're going to do it for 3? He said, yeah, let's do it. He said, okay, let's do it. So then the guy takes out an old flip phone, and he starts taking pictures. And the guy goes, wait, you're using pictures from that phone? He said, hey, 3%, 3%. It's got 2 pixels or whatever he said. Then he goes outside and he has a kid's little easel with a chalkboard that says for sale. And the guy said, wait, that's the sign? He goes, I told you, same day service. That's what you get, 2%, 2% or 3%. And then he said, and by the way, I'm going away for 3 weeks, but I'll call you when I get back. So I don't think people should fool themselves. Just the way in any other profession, the people at the top of the profession expect to get paid for the service that they deliver. And the people who you need to take care of you and make sure you're buying for the best price, selling for the best price, they're not working for a discount broker. It's not going to happen. Do you think the greatest stock trader out there, works for, ABC stock trading, or is he working at Goldman Sachs or a great hedge fund? So I'm not a fan of discount brokerage, not because I'm in full service brokerage. I just don't think that the sellers and buyers are making up what they lose in a small commission discount.
Moving forward about real estate, because I promise this is going to be a real estate show, folks. Let's talk about the offices. So are you closing offices? I mean, you were well ahead of this before the pandemic. Do we need these brokerage offices, all these offices? And how do you keep the culture of agents when you're not in an office?
That is just the question that everybody's asking. And it's really unfortunate, in my opinion, because so much culture comes out of being together in offices. So what we're trying to do now is close some offices and get everybody together in other offices. So if your occupancy was 25% in each office and you put people together, the occupancy goes up. We're also trying to do a lot of fun things, whether it's Tequila Tuesdays or Taco Thursdays or bagels on Wednesdays. I mean, we're trying to get people in the office. And
can't you make it a requirement, or you can't because they're independent contractors?
They're independent contractors. We can't require it. What's interesting is there are certain people, they are in that office every single day. They would not even consider working from home.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you a second because I find this, I also was an agent. A lot of the leads come into the company. Are you giving more of the leads to the people that are actually there? Are they making more money if they come to work?
We don't give more leads to the people who are there unless it's somebody who happens to call in or walk in. But as you know, a lot of people are just calling people directly or responding to listings online. But our offices that are retail spaces, yes, if you're in the office, you're going to get those walk-ins. And there still are a lot of walk-ins, especially in the Hamptons and in some of the other resort markets where people are always out and about and then get this feeling, oh, I want to go see a house. We're not afraid to close offices. I think it's healthy. It's not a sign of anything bad with the company. It's a sign of being smart and seeing where you need to be. We announced a couple weeks ago that we were moving our West Side office. The lease was up very soon, and rather than renewing...
Where was it?
It was at 888 7th Avenue. So we're in the process of moving It was the West Side office, and it was our Corcoran Sunshine office. And they come in the office every day. They're really busy. But I've got this big corporate headquarters at 590 Madison, beautiful office. We moved during COVID. We have about 50,000 square feet. And it pains me when I go in there and there's not a lot of people there. So why not fill it up? And then I think we get some of that culture and camaraderie back. And the more people talk about being in the office, I think hopefully it will drive other people to be there. But I think that it's definitely impactful to the city and what goes on with everything around these offices that people do get back to work.
That's interesting. Let's go big picture. Let's talk about New York. I think we're going to focus today on New York, Florida, and probably a little bit about the Hamptons. Howard Lorber, who I've spoken to about this, he describes New York as becoming a pied-à-terre town, where it's a secondary home. It's no longer the primary home for New Yorkers. He said it's more of a secondary home. Do you agree with that?
Well, I'll agree with Howard that we have so many pied-à-terre buyers and people who are looking at New York as one of the capitals of the world, one of the greatest places to have a home. So it could be their second, third, fourth, fifth home. There's a lot of wealth in this world that's been created, and a lot of that wealth wants to be in a city like New York. However, there is a huge, huge amount of people that still call New York home, and it is their primary residence. People love New York. The schools in New York are full. Try and get your kid into private school.
Well, public schools are not doing very well.
As I said, try and get your kid into private school. Look how well the charter schools are doing. I mean, that's a whole different conversation, and that's probably for the politicians. But the public schools and all of what's going on, politically in New York is it's impactful. But people, when they come to us for an apartment, it's interesting. They're not talking about that so much. We're selling a lot of higher end apartments, and they're focused on their quality of life in what they can buy, where they want to live, be close to the office, raise their children here, or just be a couple here or a single here. Still, young people graduating from school, it is their dream to be in New York City. Now, a lot of them, it's Brooklyn. I'll call Brooklyn is part of New York City. When my daughter was looking for a place, she started looking in Brooklyn Heights. And then she said, I'll live in West Village or Brooklyn Heights. It's where a lot of the young people want to be.
Yeah, they want to be together.
Thank goodness she ended up in the West Village. It's easier. But and my other daughter lives in Jersey City. Also, when I go visit her there, it's amazing. I mean, it is full of vitality and young people, and everybody's outside. So New York is not just for pied-à-terres. This is where people want to make their home and make their life.
Do you see the suburbs outpacing New York, like Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, regarding new developments? Are you seeing it outpacing it?
No, I don't think so. I think that we had the great relocation with the pandemic, and a lot of people moved to Florida. Myself, I was one of those people that moved to Florida, and I had always had a home there, and I'm building our business up there a lot because we see so much business increasing in Florida. And if you read the U-Haul statistics and the moving company statistics, yes, a lot of people left New York for Florida. But try and find an apartment here. Try and find a good rental. Try and find a good condo. There's enough people that are still buying here. So I don't know where they're all coming from, but they are still coming. Now, last week I went and toured a bunch of my franchises, and one of the stops I made was in Charlotte, North Carolina. They put a house on the market in Charlotte. It is gone in a couple of days.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
So you're right in that some of these markets have really become exciting. Now, taxes, weather, convenience, low crime.
Politics,
yes, very much so. So New York is not the only place to live. There's a lot of great places in this country to live. And when you talk to the people in Florida, they love it. They love the low taxes. They love Austin, Texas. There are plenty of places outside of New York City that are great places to live. As far as the suburbs go, we saw the suburbs, whether it was Greenwich or Bedford or Chappaqua or Summit, New Jersey, they exploded during COVID. And people like that lifestyle. They wanted the backyard and all that. Some people have definitely come back. Some people have embraced the suburban lifestyle. It's a little bit easier if you're raising a family, if you have kids. The public schools are, many would say are better. You could jump in your car. You don't have to deal with the bike lanes and the traffic and the congestion pricing.
Yeah, we won't get into that.
So, look, it's a big world, and there's a place for everybody. So I don't think the fact that other places have become super attractive have made New York City any less attractive. And I'll tell you this, for Florida, people have always had second homes there. They like to spend more time there because of the weather, but you see them running back north or running to Aspen in the summers. It's not as though they're a lot of these relocators are permanently, spending their lives down there.
We'll get into that in a minute, but let's stick to New York for a minute. Let's talk about, I'm told that, because I had Bill de Blasio on this show a few weeks ago, and that was quite the interview. And yeah, I see the face. And we heard his version of it, and you're welcome to listen to the Miller Report and hear it. It was a lot of emotion going back and forth. But one of the things that I spoke to him about was these awful eviction laws for the landlords that had nothing's been in favor for the landlords, and how many apartments have been warehoused because landlords will not put their apartments on the market because they can't evict their tenant and because they can't even get fair market rent. So do you agree with that, and do you see a lot of apartments on the rental side being warehoused?
It's such a disaster, and it's a disaster for the people who need the apartments the most. And these ideas that you can tell a landlord, sorry, too bad, suck it up, you write the check, come out of your own pocket. It's not a sustainable model. So yes, we do see a lot of apartments that will never hit the market, and that causes prices to go up because
I was told 50%. Is that possible?
No, I don't think it's that high. But I was talking to a landlord the other day, and he said he can't afford to put these apartments on the market because they need work. He can't get the money back, and he doesn't have the funding. And a lot of them, unfortunately, have loans that they took in a low interest rate environment. Cap rates have changed, and some of these guys are underwater, and there is zero sympathy in this town for a landlord. Everything is about the tenant, and I feel for the tenants, and we deal with lots of tenants with vouchers who are not looking for luxury rentals, but who are just trying to find a place to live. And I think New York City should be a city for everybody, but they have gone so far that they have just created a situation that is going to make housing harder and harder and harder. So his politics and what he did, and they thought they were the heroes to the underserved. No, it's just the opposite.
Bill, I hope you're listening. What's going to happen when these rent-stabilized buildings become due and the loans come due? What's going to happen?
It's a really good question. I guess some of them will be given back to the banks. Some of them, other people will step in. It's a conversation we have a lot. You see the stock of NYCB recently getting hit because they're very afraid of their multifamily loan portfolio and some of their commercial portfolio. You see what happened to Signature and the other bank, Silicon Valley Bank. Someone is going to have to pay the piper. But I feel that in the climate right now in New York, they're even trying to cap brokers' fees. Like they want us to run around for nothing, basically. And there's some bad apples out there. I read, I don't know if you had it on your podcast, but I read where these crazy unethical brokers were charging ridiculous key money to get into these apartments. Yeah. That's disgusting, and they should pay the fines and they should lose their license. But that's not typical. That's very atypical, and these are sort of one-off sleazy people. Unfortunately, we have them in our industry like everywhere else. But it's a problem, Suzanne, and what we really desperately need here is more housing
and we need
better leadership.
Better leadership. Let's move on to sales. Interest rates are down, but we see that what rate do you think we need to get to jumpstart this? To really jumpstart the sales, because I know that these much less transactions than there have been. I know that the prices have not really come down because there's less apartments on the market. Why would I sell something when I have a rate of 3% to pay 6%? It makes no sense. So what number do you think is going to take to jumpstart this market?
So yesterday was sort of an unfortunate day because I think we were all looking for the rates to come down a little bit sooner, and the inflation numbers were high yesterday. So people were talking about, can you get just below 6%? Like if we had a 5 in front of it, that would be hugely impactful. I don't think anyone's waiting for rates to go to 3% again. That ship has sailed. And for those who were lucky enough and smart enough to get those 2 and 3% mortgages, that's great. Can we ever get you to move? I hope so. If rates go sub 6, I hope so. It's really a shame, but you talk to someone and they say, well, I have a capital gain. I have a super low interest rate. How can I move? It's going to cost me so much more money. And the lack of inventory is keeping those prices high. We have seen some price adjustments, and I think we'll probably, in certain parts of the market, see more. And not necessarily talking about New York City, but where you had these crazy booms in other parts of the country during COVID, those prices are not sustainable. I don't know. What do you think about the interest rates?
I think it's not about the interest rates. I think it's about uncertainty. I think the fact that we're in two wars. Explain this to me. So if I take $1 million apartment, we'll follow the math, and you put down 20%, we're talking about $800,000 mortgage at today's rate of 6.5%, it's approximately $5,000 a month. At $5,000 a month, that's the price of a rental. And you get some tax deductions. Why are more people not getting equity in their apartments? We both know over long-term, 30, 40 years, you'll always make money in real estate. Nothing's ever gone down. So why are people not entering the market when they're renting for these prices? To me, I cannot figure that out. You're the expert. You're the CEO of Corcoran. You've got thousands and thousands of apartments. Explain this to us.
So you're funny because on Sunday, I went looking at apartments with my younger daughter who's getting married. And she said that to me, Mom, it's ridiculous. Look what I'm paying in rent. I should be buying something. Were you advising her? And we went and looked at a couple of apartments, and she's looking in an area that's a super, super tight market.
Which area?
Hoboken. She's looking in Hoboken,
got
New
Jersey kids.
No, the other one's the West Village.
Okay.
This is my Jersey kid.
Okay.
So we looked at these apartments, and we, looked at the mortgage rates. Unfortunately, we don't have that great tax deduction anymore.
Salt. We lost it.
Right. So that's impactful. And the prices are so high. And this is a young kid who's 25 years old. And you just wonder if she's only going to stay there a couple of years. By the time you're in and out, is there going to be that much appreciation for her? I think if we knew she'd stay for 5 years, it's a no-brainer. And she will buy because of what you said. She's throwing away the money on rent. But these apartments, one of the ones she looked at, the one below it had traded for $200,000 less than the one she's looking at. And they had 19 people one day at the open house and 21 the day before. So there's clearly demand out there. But because the low inventory is driving these prices, it does give you a little bit of pause. Everybody wants to feel like they're getting a good deal. But I agree with you. The rent versus buy, you have to run the numbers, you have to do the math, and you have to be able to afford it. Affordability is tough right now for people, no matter where they are, right?
What are you seeing in the foreign market? Do you see foreign investors coming up because they've got cash? We've lost China. We've lost Russia. They're probably not buying as much. My clients, Empire State Properties has mostly investment clients. That's what we've done over the 38 years. But they've backed out. What are you seeing on that?
Well, we haven't seen the Russian buyers in years. They've been long gone. But the Chinese buyers are out in force. 31 or 32% of our foreign buyers last year were Chinese. And we see them every day in every one of our buildings, whether it's smaller apartments where they're buying for investment or buying for their children. A lot of people are buying for their kids. It's what you said. They don't want to rent them for 4 years. They'd rather buy, get the upside, sell it in 4 years, or maybe they have another child that's coming over. And then, of course, buying very big luxury apartments. So Chinese money is here. They got the money out.
Great.
So we love that. Not as much investment buyers as we've seen in the past. Things are expensive here, right? So when you look at the carrying charges and the real estate taxes, it's a little bit tougher. Even with the high rents, you have to be careful as to how well, what kind of returns you'll have. That's why people love Hudson Yards, right? Huge tax abatement. Gary Barnett's project, down on the Lower East Side there, Manhattan Square, huge tax abatement. These are where the investors are flocking.
We need 421A, Pam.
Yes, we do.
Let's sing it. We need 421A.
So, you've had all these politicians on. The things that make apartments available to all New Yorkers have gone away. Why is that?
Because they're not in favor of the landlords. It's becoming a wealth war. It's becoming a wealth war. We need to speak up because who's going to pay the taxes for all the services that we need? New York is made up of 35% of the budget is on real estate taxes in this town. Sanitation, police, schools. We need the taxes. We need the revenues. So I think we have to band together. Women,
We try. I mean, we fought that pied-à-terre tax really hard. That would have been just so unfortunate for New York to tax people who are coming in here and not using the schools and a lot of the overcrowding, a lot of the services that regular day-to-day New Yorkers need, but they're spending tons of money and they're paying a lot of real estate taxes. So thank goodness we didn't scare them off with that. But I always have fear that some politician just thinks, soak the rich. And don't worry about it. They'll still buy, but they won't.
So we're getting down towards this. Curtis. Hi, Curtis Lewa. You want to come say hello to Pam Liebman, CEO Corcoran? I'm the real estate lady. He notices me as the real estate lady, right, Curtis?
Curtis. Thank goodness for guys like Curtis.
Thank God for
keeping New York safe. Thank you. A big fan of yours.
Keeps us safe.
Good hands for you. Good hands.
Curtis, I have to tell you, yesterday I was in a taxi and the taxi driver was a retired police officer. He said, I'm done with the force, and now he's driving a cab, and he went back to school to get his law degree. And then I was with somebody else, and he was doing a totally different job, and I said, what did you used to do? He said, I was a police officer. I just retired, and that's a little scary for me, too.
Thank you for coming on the Miller Report, Pam. This is fantastic, and I think it's going to take voices like yours to keep talking, keep shouting out. We want to keep the city safe. We need people like Curtis. We need people like you that speak out, are intelligent. You run so much in the real estate. And is there anything you want to end with that our listeners could hear?
How do you think I'd look in one of those red hats? Can I join the Curtis Brigade?
There you go. There's 500 of them. Do you imagine there's no weapons? They go on the streets. They protect people. They call them smash and crash. So they take you if they see you committing a crime. They throw you against the wall. No weapon, and they wait for the police to come. It's phenomenal.
Well, last thing I want to say is thank you for having me. And no matter what, New York City, we have our trials and tribulations, but to me, it is the greatest city in the world. I'm proud to sell real estate here. We'll keep selling. We'll keep renting. And I've spent my whole career in New York City real estate. And even though I live in Florida.
No, we don't want to hear that. Come back.
My heart is always in New York, and thanks to people like you and Curtis and everyone else here at ABC, you're letting a lot of really good voices be heard. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much for coming on the Miller Report.